Okay, Mishlei 21:19. And as I mentioned in the shiur announcement, that if this sounds familiar, it's because it sounds familiar. Okay, Tov Sheves Be'eretz Midbar Me'eshes Midyanim V'cha'as. Anyone want to take a stab at translating that? Since Isaac's not here. Oh, Isaac is here. Okay.
Better to dwell in a desert land than a contentious woman and anger.
Yep, that's how I would translate it. Actually, I think the only thing I would change is I would change Eretz Midbar to a wasteland. And the only reason I'd say that, well, two reasons I'd say that is one, it's a more accurate translation of Midbar, but also because I feel like desert has certain connotations from like cartoons of like lots of sand and like no water, whereas like wasteland just means like an uninhabited place, and I think it's just more accurate that way. Okay.
I think of wasteland is like human waste type of like sewage area.
Oh, really?
That's what I think of.
I don't know anyone who uses the term wasteland that way.
Well, I think of like wastewater treatment.
Oh, I see. Fine. Yeah. How about a barren land? No, whatever. Wait.
Keep it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So and no, and this is kind of why I wanted to talk about it, is like the essential element is it's a place where people don't live. Okay, so like that rules out your both of your associations. Okay, so Madon, so Midyanim, just to clarify, I think I clarified this last time. Midyanim does not mean Midianites, right? It comes from the word Madon, which is strife or contention. Okay, so we can get rid of that. And why is this not being gotten rid of? There we go. Okay, Sardigan. I was deleting this also. Okay. Lasheves be'eretz midbar tov mi lasheves im isha ba'alas midyanim umargiza. But I think this is almost the same, but I'm just going to translate it anyway. To dwell in a wasteland is better than to dwell with a woman who is ba'alas midyanim, I guess, full of contentiousness. I mean, literally like a mistress of contentiousness, but that doesn't, that's not a good way to say it. Umargiza and provocation, I'd say. So margiza is causes rogues, causes like provocation or like incitement. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you translate it as full instead of master? Right. When we use Baal and master.
Yeah, full of is also good. Yeah. I mean, because okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, why did I translate it that way? I mean, yours is certainly a good translation also, but I'm just trying to think why my mind went that way. Let's put both. I don't know. I can't explain why my mind went that way. It is full of.
If someone who's a master of something is like, that's what they are full of.
Right. I'm trying to think though, why did my mind go to that first?
That's all they're.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a slight difference.
Yeah, I do. I think so also. Meaning full of to me is like more quantitative, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Targum tav lemitav ba'ara madbra min itza tagranisa umargazanisa. I think the only reason I added this here is just to show that Sardigan, he took the same approach to Sardigan of marganisa is like she causes anger. Yeah. I think there's I think the reason why it's important for him to say like causes anger is because what would be the other way? Okay, well, there is a certain ambiguity in the second half. In fact, it's ambiguity that's exposed by the, hold on a second. A woman of contentiousness. Yeah, this highlights, what's the ambiguity here?
Whether the contentious and anger is the woman or what she causes to you.
Okay, yeah, right. So whether whether like she is contentious and angry,
yeah,
or whether she's contentious and then she causes you to be angry, or I think there's even a third way, which is better to dwell in a wasteland than a scenario involving two qualities: living with a contentious woman and then having anger. In other words, let's say, for example, you had a person who was like totally cool as a cucumber, like never got angry. So would the pasuk apply to him or not? Like or is the pasuk only talking about someone who has anger and is with a contentious woman? And I think that's why Sardigan and the Targum take a stance on it that she's causing you to be angry. Yeah, Sean.
Why wouldn't it then say and be angry?
Yeah.
The conjugation of anger does not seem to be in that.
Right. Yeah. Like there. I mean, the most clear way to say it in Hebrew, I think, would be me'eshes midyanim. Like umachis, machisa. I don't know exactly how to conjugate it, but something like that. Yeah. So that's why I think that the ambiguity is deliberate. That it's one of these things where Shlomo is making it deliberately ambiguous so that you can read multiple ways. That's my intuition, at least. Okay, let's see how the English guys take it. Our scroll says, better to dwell in a wasteland than with a woman of contention and anger. Okay, that's basically what we said. Living not, better to dwell in a wasteland than with a quarrelsome, quick-tempered wife. Okay, so that's an interpretation, not really a translation. Okay. It's not a bad interpretation. It's just it's taking a stance. Altered, better to dwell in a desert land than with a quarrelsome, angry wife. Right. So he takes the other way. That's saying that the anger is a quality of her. Okay. You know what? I'm going to actually keep this here in case, just to remind us that we could translate the pasuk that way as well. Yeah. Okay. So what are our questions?
Why is it only about a woman?
Let's. Yeah. No. I'm just thinking. I think the question is this specifically about women, or is it just using, or can it be about any spouse, but Shlomo is talking by default to a man?
So might not share what we said throughout about this concept.
I don't know. Yeah. Right. In other words, like the default audience of Mishlei is Bini, is a male, right? So he's obviously going to be talking about advising him about what kind of woman to marry. But would Shlomo say this to a woman also? Like, or is it Davka, the personality of the contentious woman? Yeah.
That's politically correct. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking that before you finished that sentence.
Yeah.
I was thinking you were saying Daka, the personality of this trait, regardless of who it.
Right. I'll just add. Is the trait of midyanim v'cha'as gender specific? Put it that way.
And what's the comparison between a wasteland and?
Yeah, that's the main question, right? So first of all, better in what sense, right? Anytime you have a tov, this, then that, you got to say better in what sense. It sounds like apples and oranges, kind of like wasteland. Like, what do you want? A wasteland or a contentious wife? Like what kind of question? What quality is shared? Well, how would we put this? I guess what criteria, right? Criteria are shared by living in a wasteland and with a contentious, angry wife, such that they can even be compared.
And on that question, is he saying that it's better to live in a wasteland single or with another woman just in a wasteland?
Oh, no, I think single. Yeah.
Single?
Yeah. That's actually another thing, right? Is like, why do you even need to go so far as, I'm going to add this as a separate question. Why does he need to go so far as saying in a wasteland, okay, which implies like single? Why not just say like better to be single than to be married to this kind of woman? Like we had in the last pasuk that we did that was along these lines. It was better to dwell on the corner of a roof than to be in a house with friends and a contentious woman. So that was like I can have the plus of friends and the minus of the contentious wife, or it could be alone. Like somehow that like is less of a leap than here. Yeah.
In terms of the spouse, is that a specific example or just like?
Right.
Right? Can it be someone who's not a spouse?
Correct. Yeah.
Occupies a
Yeah.
similar-
That's right. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna actually have that as a separate question, which is likewise, because it is related, is this specifically about marriage, or can this extend to other, let's just call them close proximity relationships? For example, business partner, roommate, best friend, right? Yeah. Right, child, right, offspring.
So wasteland inherently bad?
What was it?
Is a wasteland like inherently bad, like to be alone?
So that's kind of, I guess that's also the quality. Let's just add that to this question here. What is the, which qualities of, oh yeah, hold on a second here. It's actually better if we add it to this. Also, which qualities of wasteland are being highlighted? Is it just solitude, removal from society? I mean, that's danger, like lack of resources, right? Like there are lots of things that are scorpions right now. There are lots of things that are bad about wastelands, but which of these many qualities is it really saying? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a type of question you could ask, but as far as this and the other pasuk that we had that was very similar. What the differences between these two?
Let's try to do that at the end.
What hold off on it.
What was it?
I should hold off on it. Then.
No, that's fine. Well, I'm going to say we're going to put it at the end of the list because we need to understand this one first. What is the difference between this pasuk, and I think it was Mishlei 9, or it was the same perek, I think. Tov l'shavas al pinas gag me'eshes midyanim ubeis chaver. Right then, and 9. Yeah.
Now, what's the difference between this and also the idea of leaving the middle of nowhere from your neighbors who are Roshan?
From your neighbors who are Roshan? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like is this adding something new?
Okay, yeah.
Is it similar?
Right. So likewise, these are all similar questions, but they are different enough to be listed separately, which is like what is the difference between this advice and the general advice to avoid a shachen ra, right? Like a bad neighbor, right? We say you should avoid Roshan in general. Yeah.
Isn't this obvious?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So
That's not obviously going to wasteland.
yeah, that's true, right? But isn't that so? Let's just say, like, what is the Mishlei Ahavam, right? Because people do make this mistake. Like I'm sure you've seen people who like you meet their wife and you're like, how could they live with this 24/7? But they
or husband just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. But like it's like you have to ask yourself, like, what were they thinking? Like, is it that this person changed? Is it that they were like blinded by some of their fact? Like what led them into this? Hold on, there was something that was triggered by your question. I was going to comment on something else other than isn't this obvious? I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I just am now realizing this is not necessarily going to be relevant to our pasuk. It might be, maybe according to Rashi. I haven't looked at Rashi yet, but I just now am getting a reference in Yirmiyahu, which I never connected to this before. I think maybe. Oh, hold on a second. Trying to remember the phrase. What's going on? Is the search not working today? All right, let's look at Machon Mamre. So this is the Rambam, I think, quotes this in Hilchos Deos. Oh, you reminded me of this when you were saying a bad neighbor. In Deos 6:1 or 6:2? 6. Yeah. Yirmiyahu, and I forgot if this is him talking or if this is Hashem talking. Me, it's named Bamidbar, Malone Orphim, the Ezva Esami. If only I were in a wilderness in a guest house in the wilderness, and I could abandon my people and leave them. All of them are adulterers, a band of traitors, right? And then he talks about how they lie. So I had read that before, but I never thought associated to this pasuk that God is always comparing Klal Yisrael to like a wife. So I never made that association. Like Hashem is saying, I don't want to be with this contentious woman. I'd rather be, or Yirmiyahu saying, I'd rather be in a midbar. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
Like women. Whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean that's like a classic mashal, right? Is Klal Yisrael is always the wife and Hashem is the husband.
Yeah, and also what is contentiousness and what's
yes? Okay, good. Yeah, we didn't ask that. Yeah.
And what's anger?
Yeah. Okay.
What kind of
So
anger we're talking about?
what are the qualities of? I'm just going to lump them all into one question. Midyanim v'cha'as, right? Are they even two separate qualities, right? Yeah, like if you read it like Sardigan, you could even just read it as one. She's contentious and she provokes you.
What is contentious?
Yeah.
No, I mean.
Just in English means that like you are prone to fighting or to arguing or to.
Anger is I guess in our way of reading is not exactly the same.
Right. Okay, I feel like that about covers it.
Who's the audience?
Well, the audience is clear here, right?
Women? I mean men.
Yeah, it's men, and it's specifically men who are prone to this havamina, right? And then the practical advice is also like simple, which is don't get married to this kind of woman. Or if you are married, then then yeah, or structure your career where you're like always overseas, you minimizing your time. Yeah.
So I have an obvious approach. I'll just spit it out, just
Sure.
get out of the way. Like you could have a situation, and I'm basing this off of Rabbi Zimmer's shiur, about where like you are emotionally blinded to this woman.
Right. Yeah.
It could be in dating, it could be even in marriage.
Yeah.
Like when you see her, oh wow, love at first sight, but she's like a wicked person.
Right.
Yeah, and like you don't even see that.
Right.
But which is difficult because like if you don't see it, how can you?
Yeah. So I would tweak that slightly, which is that it must be that you do notice this quality, but it's overshadowed by the qualities that are appealing.
Right.
Or that's one option. What's the other option about why a person might?
People telling you. Could be the other.
Oh, you mean about how you know
if
it?
you're blinded,
Right?
Then and it's hard to see.
Right.
But, people can tell you, but you have to be willing to.
Correct. Yeah. So
that's external.
Right. So in other words, so either you don't know about this quality. So if you don't know about this quality at all, then the pasuk can't apply, right? That was your problem, right? So we have to assume. We have to assume that you know about this quality. And either the havamina is coming from the fact that that it's not as bad as it seems, or like I can live with it, or I think the worst one or the most common one is like I can change her, right? I don't think this is pointing to one specific havamina. I think this is just
it could be multiple.
Yeah.
It's just it could be any. It could be various, it could be,
Right.
oh, she's really hot, and like,
Right.
okay, I'll just deal with it, and maybe I'll change her.
Exactly right. Yeah.
A good return on my investment.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Good.
Or
She's really rich.
she's rich.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Rich.
But here's the thing, though. Right now, I'm saying that the havamina doesn't really matter, and it could be lots of them.
Yeah.
But it could be that that's what the first half is getting out. That the first half might be pointing to a specific havamina.
Yeah. So it's it's interesting. I think it's sort of the Wasteland thing. Like my answer to that question is it's just like it's just a way of writing to the extreme.
Yeah. There is this is how Sardigan in the Hakdama Mishlei explains the mashalim, which is I'm just gonna quote him, or because he says it. He speaks his own Torah better than I speak it. So I mean, we've said this before, but I think it's just good to see it in his own words. That basically the okay, that's one thing. This is the second one. No. No. This is the thing. Okay. Shahamon, so the masses. Okay, and that's we're including ourselves in this. Knowledge from the senses, meaning like empirical experiential knowledge, is krova v'kala to them, is like closer, more accessible and easier than knowledge of the intelligence, of the intellect, right? Meaning abstract ideas are more remote from you than experience, right? Because you have your sensory faculties from the time that you're born, right? So you have all these years where you're raised, where the only thing you can really relate to is physical sensory things, and then your intellect doesn't come online until later. Beautifully worded. Therefore, it is necessary to craft mashalim, metaphors or allegories, in order to equate in their eyes, meaning in the eyes of the Hamon, the obligations of the intellect with the obligations of the senses. Okay, meaning we want to take abstract ideas and make them as compelling to your emotions and senses as experience. Okay, ubir davar. So the explanation: shahush kasher roa es eish boreach hachayim mimena mipachado penisaref. So when any living creature sees fire, it flees from it to not get burned, right? That's like an instinctual thing. If you hear a loud noise, you instinctively recoil from it. Because these things are sensory. For this reason, when the intellect sees something that is destructive, or hears something that is harmful, the gila eszel leteva, and reveals this knowledge to your instinctual nature. That's what he means by teva. The ra'ash eno somech alav, and he sees that the psyche is not relying on it, and it doesn't accept it, right? Like your animal part of you doesn't really understand this abstract idea. Nidaber imo ba'ofen shiyavin. Your intellect speaks with your psyche in a language that it understands. Okay. The Omer says to him, Sim le'ev, pay attention. Shezeh shani omer lecha. The thing I'm telling you, like this harm, this abstract harm that I'm telling you, it's like that fire that you would naturally like flee from. And like deep waters that you instinctively guard against. This is the benefit of metaphors. To make accessible to the psyche the certainty of the intellect. And saying to it, and saying this is similar to what you experience with your senses. That's why you call the book Sefer Mishlei, because it has examples of this. So he's going to give a couple examples. So it compares theft, which the imperfection of is obvious to the intellect. It compares it to murder, where the imperfection is obvious to the instincts. In other words, like it says, like like we instinctively recoil from the notion of killing somebody, but there are a lot of people who would steal from someone, deprive them of their livelihood without feeling like they're killing them, but really you are depriving them of the livelihood. It says, such are the ways of all who steal wealth. They take the lives of the wealth's owners. So it compares, I think here znus usually means like promiscuity, but here he's talking about literally like a prostitute, right? So I think it means like seeking, sexual pleasure from a prostitute. So that is obvious to the intellect that that's a bad thing, but it compares that destructiveness to falling into a pit, which is experientially very obvious, that it's harmful. Kamraz, it says kishocha amuka zona. It says a prostitute is like a deep pit, ube'er tsara nachria, and a strange woman, which is another term for a prostitute, is like a narrow well. Meaning that once you start going to prostitutes, you get you get addicted, and then it saps you of all your resources, and then and creates all these problems. It compares someone who can't control his anger to which is obviously bad to the intellect, compares that to a city that doesn't have a wall, that is exposed to all danger. It says, like a breached city with no wall, so is a man who doesn't have any restraint for his spirit. Okay, so that's the derech of Mashalim according to Sardigan, is basically taking things that are already taking ideas that are real to the that the intellect grasps, and then making them real to the emotions by making comparisons to things that we naturally have an emotional reaction to. So going back to our pasuk, that is the simplest thing about Eretz Midbar. It's hyperbole, but it's hyperbole that has an emotional impact. Like if you just said, like, better to not get married to this woman than to get married to this woman, that's like abstract intellectual advice, but she's hot, or she's rich, or she's whatever, so it's saying, like, you'd be better off going into the desert and living as a hermit for the rest of your life than like being with her. And that makes the emotions go, whoa, like, really, to be like in a desert. So that's the emotional impact. And now the question is, what ideas are, so that's like the the mushal is like the what do you call it, the vessel that affects your emotions, but what ideas are being implanted in there? Like what qualities of, like, it's not just for emotional impact, it's delivering intellectual content with maximal emotional impact. So what is the ideational content that you got?
That was my follow-up question.
Yeah, okay, good. But I'm glad you again stating the points that are like that you kind of feel like, oh, maybe they don't need to be stated, like that I think is good to like articulate those, because you review the ideas and then you set yourself up for the next step.
And just another question is, it could be different nowadays also, like a wasteland back then could have been more emotionally harmful than it is now, because now when someone tells me about a wasteland, what the hell is that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I guess that's another question we should add here, so like, which is just
another era type point.
Yeah. So what also do we need a modern I can never remember how to spell corollary. Is it one R? Yeah, corollary to a wasteland. Like for example, I'm gonna just say this. Just I don't know if this is actually true. Better to get a cubicle office job, than to be like with a potential, like there are we just aren't familiar with wastelands. So like, is there a more impactful mushal, which we can only really answer through the wasteland thing if we understand it? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, so you could just continue on and say that a wasteland is, at least back then, their entire primary source of income was produce and food and
so you're gonna be deprived of basic needs.
Basically, yeah, exactly. I don't even know if wasteland is like solitary also.
Well, I mean, wasteland is definitely solitary. Like, it is solitary. Yeah.
So solitary
and without resources.
Yeah. So like, back then, that's horrible.
Yeah.
At least
and danger also, like what Debbie was saying. It's, there's like, in addition to the danger of not having resources, there's also the danger of like, I guess it depends on where you are, but like sandstorms. When I said scorpions, I wasn't joking. Like that was a thing that was like in the desert, all these creatures. What was it? Bandits, right.
And at least if there was
only kind of solitude breaking that you don't want, right? Like there are people out there, but they're bandits. Yeah.
Yeah, and at least if you're with someone else, like you could go down together.
Yeah, right.
Or if you hold like the sheet of holes, you could eat a body. That's food.
Getting very vivid there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Can we just, with everything that we are saying, maybe there's more to say about what the qualities of a wasteland are. Can we know what effects it has on a person?
Yeah. Right.
And then I think
that's good. Right.
What affects the world?
Yeah, I mean,
isolation, right?
Yeah. Right. So what happens when you're not? So all these qualities we just mentioned, right?
What affects is
psychological effects.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing of all these qualities we mentioned, I think one of the things they have in common is you are in a default state of perpetual danger. right? Or perpetual fear, maybe, there's the fear of not having enough resources. There's the fear of being attacked. There's the fear of like dying from like a sandstorm. There's a fear of your own thoughts, in solitude. Like there's, like just being, alone with your own thoughts, even though I don't think that's the claim shot, but like you're, in terms of like emotional arousal, like for like a state of tension, you are in a constant state of tension that's very primal. Like man was not designed to live in solitude without any other human contact. And so like you're going against every primal instinct, and you're constantly there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to answer this question, the psychological impacts are like, going insane, fear. Because like think about COVID for a second, right?
Yeah, you've had the most experience.
I'm just saying, in terms of solitary, like there were nights where I couldn't fall asleep and I was like walking around the base, this floor, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Thinking I was like going nuts.
Yeah, it's very unnatural.
It's like you can go insane.
Yeah. Oh,
Wasteland. Like I guess, like imagine I had no resources. I would.
Yeah. I'm actually going to put that there. Solitary confinement might actually be a modern corollary to this, which I actually want to look into. I know solitary confinement is a highly controversial, like it's widely used, but it's very controversial in terms of like whether it's good or bad, and tends to exacerbate whatever psychological problems we're already likely. If you're chayav for solitary confinement, you already have lots and lots of psychological issues, and this only makes it worse.
Yeah, so that was one possible thought that I also had insofar as when you're living on your own, then insofar as like opportunities for growth, is not directly done that mishlei of like bettering yourself, but there is no like it's when it's just only you.
Yeah.
Then like you're not going to be thinking as much as if you were to see other people, then that could like affect how you act.
Yeah.
Even like you could have like positives of if you live around someone, if you're like constantly around someone who's like really bad.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna be like that. I'm not gonna be like that. I'm not gonna be like that.
Right.
And that there actually I think would be what to think that if you're constantly around someone who's not good, that may have some benefit to you.
Yeah.
And when you're all on your own and you don't have that, then you're not going to have those opportunities.
Yeah, so I actually don't think that your approach is far off in the sense of, it says in Bereshis, lo tov hios adam levado ezer knegdo, right? It's not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helpmate, corresponding to him. So you might have a person, the Havamina might not be that he's like lured by this woman. The Havamina might be like that, like let's say you have a guy who's like, like there just aren't that many options. Like let's say he's like living in a very, very remote Jewish community where the dating pool is just not very big. And like the dating pool consists of one woman who fits this description, and he tells himself like, well, either I like, marry her or I'm alone, and like better to have like an Ezer Kenegdo that's inferior than to just be alone. And obviously Shlomo's not poskening like in a case like that, but he's saying like, no. This might make things worse in terms of like the benefits you might reap from the Ezer Kenegdo. So that I just want to articulate this. That is a different kind of Havamina. Like all the Havaminas we said before are basically different forms of overlooking or downplaying the detriment. Okay. This Havamina is saying that the actual real benefits, like real benefits, not just like illusory benefits, the real benefits might be worth the cost of this personality. And those are two very different Havaminas. Yeah.
I actually have an idea based on that.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
That one of the benefits of having a wife is having like a constant support network.
Right.
Like someone who like helps you with like your with like your problems and like things like that. You're a team. But it's saying it's better to be completely isolated, not having like any social support network or anything like that, than to have a contentious wife. Because that will undermine you much more than.
Okay. I really like that shot. Just let me state this a little bit in a way that answers our questions more. You want to add to that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. You add to that. Yeah.
Going along the lines of like Isaac Lichter saying, having that support system, but the opposite of that is if someone who's like always looking for fights and anger and whatever, ultimately, like, no one's gonna want to deal with you. No one's want to be around you
Yeah.
through her.
Yeah.
It's gonna ruin your reputation. So not only are you alone and deprived of a support network, now you're stuck with this evil woman.
Right.
It's even worse.
Okay, that's good. So let's. I really like this approach. So I especially like the word support network, okay, or support system. So the guy in the midbar has no support system at all, right? Like not social, not like food, not protection, right? So even though a wife provides a support system or a support network, with her, you get two bads, right? You get the that it undermines the very things that you were trying to get out of this relationship. Like let's say like the basic like marriage relationship. Okay, so there are practical things that are part that are in the support system. There's psychological things, like in terms of like love, affection, self-esteem, like the whole psychological thing. There are communal things in terms of like the husband and wife are a team in terms of like the building blocks of the society, and then there's intellectual, like developmental, perfection-based needs. She undermines all of that, right? Because she, no one's going to want to hang out with you guys, right? Like you're saying, like she's going to drive away other relationships, and that was what pasuk Tet was talking about. Yeah, right. Is the house of friends? She's going to poison your friendships. Practically speaking, like either she's not going to be able to like take care of the needs of the family, of you and herself and the family, because she's always going to be complaining or nitpicking, or like
No one wants to deal with her.
Yeah, no one wants to deal with
She
her.
doesn't have access.
Very extreme woman.
It is, yeah. But remember, Mishlei operates by painting like archetypal extremes so that you can then spot them in real life in the more subtle forms. Psychologically, I think that's the easiest one to understand. No one likes to be around someone who is constantly provoking them and constantly picking fights 24/7. And that quality, I think we have had experience with in other relationships, but I do think that the pasuk, I'm sensing that according to this pasuk is about like specifically a marriage, but like, we've had experiences with, if you've ever been around someone who's just like always starting fights or always dissatisfied or always complaining, and then intellectually, she's definitely not going to help you out, because all those same qualities that like interfere with you psychologically are going to play itself out in terms of your perfection. Like, why can't you learn more, or you learn too much, or like, like you're always doing a karusa, or you're, like, or you're not like, your halakhic, whatever the thing is. And then the other thing also is your own development and perfection are going to be undermined, because you're going to be drowning in an undercurrent of misery. So psychologically, you can't, if you're psychological, if you don't have a psychological equilibrium, you won't have a basis from which you can pursue actual like development and stuff. So she's undermining all of that, So I think that's a really good shot. I think like that, But here's the thing though, is it is not, well, okay, I can only speak for myself. Okay. What was obvious about this pasuk is I don't want to be around someone who's nagging. That was obvious. What is not obvious is this whole calculus of appreciating exactly the different, the check boxes that you want for your life and for your marriage are Xing out like, okay, no practical needs, no psychological needs, no social needs, no intellectual needs, like all of them. And I think that's the calculus that this guy, that's the husband that this guy is not doing with Ahavam. Like he hasn't thought this through clearly. He thinks that the fact that she is, like, let's say she does win him a certain social status, like the trophy wife phenomenon, right? Either through her beauty or through her like yichus or through her like connections. So that's what people do, is they say, oh, well, that will be worth the negatives, but they don't really spell out the negatives. And then there's also the inescapable thing. There's another pasuk that says, Rekev Batzmosav. Hold on just a second.
I also like to support the Ahavam a little more.
Hold your thought. There is the other factor that people don't take into account. This is in Mishlei 12:4. Eishes chayil ateres ba'ala ukarakav ba'atzmosav mevisha. A woman of valor, however you want to find it, is a crown of her husband, but like rot in his bones is a shameful woman. Okay, now this obviously is its own idea, but when I learned this pasuk earlier, we thought that rot in the bones is what they would call cancer. right? Like a disease like cancer, where there's things where you get sick and then you recover, but then there's something where like in your like basic structure of your physical self, there's constant pain, that is either terminal or chronic, like just lasts forever. So that's the other factor, is that all of these bad qualities that we just talked about are amplified by the constancy and by the fact that you are anchored to her forever. Now, it's true that there is an option of divorce. The last time we did this pasuk, we talked about how like divorce back then was not as, people were not as trigger happy about divorce as they are now. And I don't mean to like minimize the fact that people get divorced, but I'm saying like it is an objective fact that people get divorced way more frequently in this society than they did back then.
It's scary with the numbers.
Right. And so for all intents and purposes, it is a permanent situation. And anytime you're in any bad situation is alleviated by the hope that like the clouds will clear and like the sun will come up, but this is just, there's no hope on the horizon, Yeah. All right. Isaac, what were we going to add or say?
Yeah. Just in support of like the Ahavam, that, getting married would outweigh it. Like, we learned a previous pasuk, which was Matzah Isha Matzah Tov V'Yafek Ratzon Hashem.
Right.
One
who's found a wife has found good and will derive favor from Hashem, which we interpreted it two ways. One was, I know this because this is the only one of my Mishlei shiurim that I've listened to. That one was talking about a good wife, like Matzah Isha Matzah Tov, and the other one was saying any wife. I'm not going to say the ideas, but those were like just the two ways to read the pshat of the pasuk. Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah, just that, like we talked about, like the myriad benefits of having any wife, even if they're not specifically like a great person.
Right. And that's like the middle. Like this pasuk is the bad side. Ashes Kyle is like the good Chacham decision, and then that pasuk was really about the middle of just any wife who's not bad is going to be better. You're going to be better off with that than alone.
Like for example, we talked about the characteristic of, or like the phenomenon of having to like systematically think about someone's needs outside of yourself.
Exactly. Right. That's going to be true for everyone. And then again, and I think that's why there's this, Shlomo like always talks about this exception, is that, that like there are people where even, I know this is how you introduce it, that it's talking about the Ahavam. This would overshadow that, because you're not going to be able to really think about like the other person's needs or even your own needs and deal with your own needs in a way that is productive. And by the way, also another factor, if she's machis you, like if we learn this like Sardigan, so, listen to our Rambam B'Kiyur shiurim on anger and how bad anger is. You will not be able to think clearly when you're angry, and you'll always be dissatisfied, and that's another form of poison that she's going to inject into your life. Yeah, Arya?
Yeah, just a cool, interesting Rambam that Rebbe actually told us at our Q&As with them.
Yeah.
He told us that that a good marriage is where the wife treats the husband as a melech, and the husband gives love to the wife.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a good, interesting riot for that Mishlei pasuk you showed us like 2 seconds
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. That's good.
It's just Kyle.
Right. Yeah.
Crown.
Right. Yeah, that is good. Okay, so let's just summarize what we have here for today, which is, I think this is a really good approach for today, is that that a person might think that better to have a wife, or like a wife stam, or this wife because of some other superior qualities that she has. And then that somehow overshadows like the negative qualities that he knows that she has, right? But what this is saying is that in every sense of the term, then in every sense that the wife provides as a support system, practical, psychological, and like intellectual and social, then she's going to make matters worse. She's going to poison or deprive you of the ability to get the benefits from other things, and therefore you are better off in a scenario without any support system than a deficient, problem-inducing support system of the wife. Yeah.
But do we also say that a wife like this is like not even going to be a support system at all. Also.
Yeah, she's going to be deficient, but she'll also make it even worse.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good. So here's what I think I want to do is there is a chance that the meforshim basically say, yeah, we explained this earlier in 21.9. I'm going to look at the meforshim and then we'll decide whether we want to do Mishlei tomorrow or Q&A tomorrow, depending on whether there's enough. Or we could just, actually, here's a better plan. Let's do Mishlei tomorrow and get whatever we get from the meforshim, and then in the leftover time, we'll do Q&A.
Cool.
That we don't have to like make a contingent thing. Okay, good. All right, have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.